فيا أيها القاري به متمسكا مجلا له في كل حال مبجلا. بسم الله، الحمد لله، الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Great to have you with us in this Tajweed podcast in the series of Makhraj videos. My name is Khalid Abu Shafi' and I will be your host in this episode. And today we are going to taking to look at the new Makhraj of the Makhraj is Noon. The letter Noon is slightly underneath the Makhraj of the Lam. So the Makhraj of the Noon, it is articulated from the tip of the tongue while touching the gums of the top incisors. So it is not taking the sides of the Makhraj of the tongue, the sides of the tongue as the Lam, but it takes the tip of the tongue. So in this Makhraj of Noon, we realize a little bit of different than the Makhraj of the Lam, as we can see that in this area where is the tip of the tongue, and we have mentioned that Makhraj al-Lam uses the sides of the tongue and the air escapes from the sides, right and left side. But here, when the air comes in, the sounds stops at when the tip hits the top of the incisors behind the incisors, the top incisors, it stops the sounds there. Then the air escapes from the nostrils and the nose. So the air flows and comes through the oral cavity and moves forward. The tip of the tongue hits behind the incisors here, and when it hits, the air of course escapes from the nostrils, and that ghunna is formed and is sounded from the nostrils and the nose. So these are some examples of Noon Sakina in the rules of Qalb, for example. So we have mentioned in a podcast, in the MP3 podcast, you can have a look at and revise them, the rules of Noon Sakina and Tanween. So every time the Noon Sakina or Tanween followed by one of the 28 letters of Arabic language, and among them is the Ba. So if a Noon Sakina followed by letter Ba, as we can see here, the Noon Sakina, it doesn't have, as you can see, any symbol of Sukun there, but it is Noon Sakina, and followed by the Ba, it changes and symbolized or substituted by the Mim. So it becomes Layum Badanna. So that Noon, it doesn't disappear, but actually it moves and it becomes like the Mim. Layun badanna. So that Noon, as you can see, instead of saying layun and put your tip of the tongue into behind the incisors, it becomes transformed into a Mim into your lips. So, layun badanna. Similarly also min ba'di and hillum bihadha al-balad. These are the rules of Noon Sakina and Tanween. If it's followed by other letters of Arabic language, of course it takes another ruling. I have mentioned also in the rules of Noon Sakina and Tanween that this idgham in if it's followed, Noon Sakina followed by Yarmalun, Ya, Ra, Mim, Lam, or Waw, or Noon, then it is divided into two parts. One part, it's called the complete idgham, which is the insertion, complete insertion of the Noon followed by one of the these letters, Ra, or Lam, or Noon, or Mim. And when it is followed only by the two letters, the Noon Sakina completely disappears, as well as its quality of the ghunna. So as you can see, if we say, for example, min rabbik becomes mir rabbik, the Noon disappears completely. But for the Noon and the Mim, yes, it disappears, the Noon Sakina, but because there is another noon and meme, if it's joined with another noon and meme. So if we say, for example, min nabiyyin, min naba'in, so you say min nabiyyin mimma. So the insertion will be there, the idgham will be there, and it's called also complete idgham because of the insertion in the next letter and the disappearance of the previous noon, but the other noon and the other meme has also a ghunna, then it is mentioned as idgham, complete idgham. So the ghunna exists on the second letter, not on the first one. But on the lam and ra, the ghunna disappears completely because noon in front of the ra, noon in front of the lam, it does not have any ghunna at all. It's called idgham without a ghunna. So go to the podcast and revise what I have mentioned in the previous lessons. For the ya and the waw, it's called incomplete because partially one of the ghunna part is there plus the ya. So you say man ya'mal min wal. So a part of the ghunna is halfway between the noon sakina and also in between, inserted into the ya or inserted into the al-waw. So in here we see the example of the ra. For example, this noon it becomes as silent. It doesn't have any sound. Similarly with this one as well. So instead of saying min rabbik, you can see the symbol of shadda there. And there's a symbol of shadda also here. So you say min rabbik, min ladun. So the noon becomes a silent. And the reason why the ra and the lam are closely, the makhraj close to the noon. We mentioned these makhraj of the lam, makhraj of the noon, and makhraj of the ra, they are close to each other. And because of that closeness and taqarub, the noon sakina or tanween, soon as it comes next to the ra or next to the lam, the noon becomes, or the tanween becomes silent. Such as if you say, for example, the adhan, you would say ashhadu anna la. You don't say ashhadu anna la, you say ashhadu alla, alla ilaha illallah. Similarly, if you say ashhadu anna muhammadan, you don't say Muhammadan with the noon at the end. You say Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. And this example with the mim and the noon, mimma min nabiyyin, it's inserted, but because of the existing of this mim and the noon, the quality of the ghunna always remains at least into the last stage of the degree of the ghunna, which I'm going to talk in the next slide about the noon and the mim ghunna quality.